Hello everyone, Ipurgepeople here, and this is the video for the using Paint.net part of my making a good pixel art tutorial, which you can find on the ruincommunity.net website, on the forums under Minecraft under new user guide, I believe. Alright, so going with the demo that I've been using for the tutorial for a while here. I'm going to keep up with the Yoko picture that I made the Yoko pixel art out of on the Ruin server. So to continue along with this, I'm going to show you how to use this program to do what you need to do in order to get your picture exactly how you need it so you can begin to make your pixel art. Now, when you open up Paint.net, you're going to open up the picture with this program. It's going to look a little bit different because these proprietary windows are not going to be where they are where you're seeing them. There's also going to be a fourth one, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't remember what it was. I didn't like it, I guess, so I got rid of it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I've moved these windows for my own personal use, and actually this history one should go down here, but I'm keeping that up here so that you can see these bottom coordinates here. Now then, to get right into the point here, couple things you're going to want to notice. This button right here displays the pixel grid when zoomed in. You're going to want to make sure that is checked under almost all circumstances. Make sure that the units provided here are pixels and not inches or centimeters. Both of these things are going to be infinitely helpful for you in your endeavor to create some good pixel art. Now, with this picture here, you'll see what I mean by subject matter. What I've been talking about in the tutorial here is making sure that you've got your subject matter of your picture in your picture. The subject matter of this picture here is the girl here, Yoko. Yoko. Now let me undo that. She's the subject matter of this picture. I don't care about the guy came. I don't care about him. I don't care about the curtains in the background, and I definitely don't care about the bed or the walls. So I'm not going to bother with the background. I'm not going to bother with him. I just want her. So that is why what I'm going to do here is, first of all, here's another very important feature of the program. You'll see right here, you'll see window, and you'll see all this here. This is how you can zoom in and out. You can also you hold down the control key and use your scroll wheel on your mouse. However, that can give you some really odd percentages, so I don't prefer to use it because I am very picky when it comes to how I like to see my things and to see the pixels how I want to see them. Personally, I like to zoom into about 1600. I find this is a really good zoom level to get the pixels how I like them. So I prefer to be at 1600. You may have a different preference. Who knows? What have you. For the purposes of this video, I use 1600. So when you zoom in here, you'll notice that these lines are all like 2 pixels wide and stuff like that, and they're all really quite wide. They overlap and that kind of stuff. In the actual picture that I put up, or the pixel art rather that I put on the server, they aren't too wide for multiple reasons, but the main reason is because I resized it and they were no longer too wide. Now, let's go ahead and zoom back out, and I will explain to you how to resize this picture so that only the subject matter, Yoko, is present in the picture. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in twice, and I'm going to scroll. There we go. Now that I'm zoomed in how I want to be zoomed in, these windows here are going to be in the way, so let me move this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and choose the rectangle select tool, and I'm going to come right about here, I think. That looks good. And let me actually turn off the grid lines for this because they get really, really annoying when you're trying to do this part. So, nope, too far over. That looks about right. Okay, so let's go ahead and do about there. Alright, now the selection is 621 by 245 blocks. It's not going to be perfect as compared to the pixel art that I made on the server. I'm not even trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I did it and what to do here. So then what you're going to want to do is come up here and you're going to see this little button here next to the paste button and the deselect button. It's the crop to selection button. And what's that? Being able to talk usually helps. What that is going to do is exactly what it says. It's going to crop it to the selection. So now when you zoom out, that part that you just selected is the only part in the picture that's left. So now that leaves us with 621 pixels by 245 pixels. That is still way too big for Minecraft. So what we're going to do with it, as I resituate my windows here, no, that's not how I want them. Come on, stop fussing with me. Whatever. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is come up here to Image and go to Resize. Now I'm going to want to come up here and click by percentage and hit. Alright, now that I've hit 50, what I'm going to do is make sure, or not make sure, what I'm going to do is hit OK. And that's going to shrink it by 50%. That's going to bring it actually perfectly to 311 by 123, which is exactly what my image is in Minecraft, my pixel art rather. So hooray, I got it correct. Now what you're going to want to do is turn on the pixel grid. Alright, and zoom in a bit. Alright, so that you can see at least partially the pixels, pardon me. Now, why am I doing this? Because now what I want to do is go over here to canvas size. It's going to be kind of different here now. We're going to want to make sure that by absolute size is checked and not by percentage. We don't want to do that. Now, we are going to take this and where it says width, there's going to be this arrow. We're going to hit that up so it's 312. Alright, and now for height, we're going to do the same thing and make that be 124. And then down here at the bottom where it says anchor, you're going to want to make sure that the bottom right hand corner is selected. Not the top left, not the middle, but the bottom right hand corner is selected. Alright, what that's going to do is it's going to make this widening that we're doing occur on the top and on the left, which is where we want it. Now, let's hit OK. And you'll see that's exactly what happened. There is now an extra pixel width of white space on both the top and the left hand side. Now, why did I do this? Well, the reason for doing that is because with Paint.net it uses the number 0. So when it says it's actually 311 by 123, it's actually 312 by 124. Now, why is that? It's because it uses the number 0 as a number. So if you really want, I can sit here and do this here. This is the pixel 10. This is pixel number 10 or whatever. So if you look down here in the bottom right hand corner, it says 10, 0 if you look below the history window. Alright, it says 10, 0. However, when you count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's actually 11 pixels to get to the 10th spot. So what we're doing by adding in this extra line of pixels on each side is eliminating that 0. By taking that 0 out of the equation, what we're going to do is we're going to make this colored block right here, this colored pixel, is going to be 1-1, or 1, 1, which if you look in the bottom right hand corner, it is, and that is going to be the edge of your canvas. Alright, so what that does is that allows you to set your canvas up visibly just by seeing this. You don't have to mentally adjust, okay, we need to move everything over. You don't have to add in the 0 line. You don't have to make, when you're doing the grid lines, it's going to make it a lot easier because you don't have to put the first grid as 11 blocks instead of 10, which will really mess, well, it messes me up personally. I don't know if it'd mess you up, but it really messes with my mind to see the first part of the grid bigger than the rest of it. It just drives me nuts. Alright, so with that in mind, this is how we make sure that the picture is ready for the grid. And now for the grid itself, personally I like to use lapis lazuli for the main bit of the grid, which the grid, what I'm doing here with the grid in game is I am doing every 10 blocks is going to be a line for the grid. So since I like to use lapis lazuli, I'm going to go ahead and choose blue, a dark blue, which is more or less the color of the lapis, and I'm going to find 10, and I'm just going to click. Oh, wait a minute, that's not going to work because I'm not on the pencil. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so make sure you click the pencil tool first. Make sure you are on blue. And then click, 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 etc., etc., and etc. Now, make sure that when you're doing it, the number itself is highlighted, because that's where it's going to, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, that's 10. If you go before the line, this right here is 19. This is 9, that's 10. This is 9, that's 10. This is 10, that's 9. Okay? Keep that in mind. That is something that I personally have had some issues straightening out in my head. Is looking at it and visibly going, okay, that's 20. No, it's actually 19. I've had issues with that. Just keep it in mind so that you don't have issues with it. 0, 0, whatever, doesn't really make a difference. Whatever. Now, I like to use the gold blocks for 50. So I'll go ahead and choose this orangish yellow color and color in the 50. And then you would go back to using the blue for the lapis. Alright, what the gold blocks allow you to do is it allows you to see, okay, this is number 50. So you're not just going, so you don't have to go in through and count all the grid lines that you're looking at. It's just another way to make it easier on yourself. So what you're going to do here now is you're going to take this and you're just going to extend it. Alright, now you don't have to do this on the picture, but when you've got a lot of empty space like this, it can really help. For instance, I come over here, trying to do this carefully so I don't have to redo it. I can bring it all the way over to here, and then I can bring down the 50. See, look, I messed up. That's what I was trying to avoid. I can bring this down close to where I actually want to do the work. And what this will do is when I'm zoomed in all the way to 1600, I can look and I can go, oh hey, well here's 50 and here's 20. Alright, I can see that right here. This says 20 and this up here says 50. I can also tell it's 50 because it's this orange. I can just look up and say 50. So this is 50, this is 20. So then I can go, okay, well this block goes here, this block goes here, this block goes here, this block goes there, this block goes there, and I have a visible representation of where the correct blocks should be. And it will take away a lot of time messing around with errors and such. So you don't have to do this here. If your picture doesn't have all sorts of empty space like this, you probably won't need to do it. You probably don't want to do it. Alright, but for a picture like this where there's all sorts of empty space up here, you may want to consider doing it, because otherwise you're going to be doing a lot of guesswork with your finger or moving the mouse and going, okay, this right here is 20, this right here is 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, it'll just save you a whole lot of heartache to just simply bring it on down. Alright, now actually since I'm right here next to 100, I like to use diamond blocks for 100, and so I would just do something like that. Alright, now the way I personally like it is I like to have the 50s and the 100. I like to have the 100 on top, and then the 50, and then the 10s. What I mean by that is when everything crosses paths in your grid, which it will do when you make your canvas on Minecraft, if you just do everything in line, it's not going, you're going to have the lapis overlap the diamond, and personally, that can get kind of confusing sometimes, so I just like to make sure that the diamond is overlapping the lapis, or the diamond overlaps the gold and the gold overlaps the lapis, and the diamond also overlaps the lapis. That's just my personal preference when it comes to the grid. So let's see here. There was some other stuff that I wanted to talk about. Let me make sure here. Resize the proper dimensions, how to set up your colors for use. Right, alright, more into colors. What you can do here is, you've seen how I keep changing this color here, which is the primary color, to blue, and to whatever color that I choose. Well, you see there's this other one that's secondary. What happens is, if you left click a color, that'll give you your primary. If you right click, it'll give you a secondary. Now, this is important because when you're going to set up your line work here, which you can see is kind of blurred here, like I mentioned above in the tutorial, it's kind of blurred. It's not very defined anymore. And if you remember, these things used to be like 4 and 5 across, and now they're only 2 or 3 across. It all kind of blends together, and it gets kind of funky when you resize it. So what you want to do is, you're really going to want to do this line work stuff. Now, I prefer to use the lime green and the magenta. That's just my preference. I can change it up if I need to, but these colors just stick out at me, and I can see them very, very well. So what I will do here is, you'll see these lines for her leg. Well, let's just go ahead and do this like this. Now, you may be asking yourself, why don't I color in all of the shaded parts? Because in Minecraft, it won't look good if you've got really, really thick lines when the lines aren't supposed to be really thick. For instance, in the Ipurgepeople art, I only have single block thick lines because it doesn't look good with thicker lines. If you look at my Canada pixel art, however, I've got really thick lines, but when you look at the original picture that the pixel art is based off of, it's supposed to have really thick lines, so it looks fine. So I'm just going to go a little more here, you know, just to show, alright, this is line work. Alright, and then I can do a little more here. I can do some for the tail. And now, this right here, what would you do here? There's 2 lines. How should you do it? Well, personally, since this line makes a point of actually coming out to the side, I would use it a little bit. Alright, you make it, you know, it's obvious that it extends off to the right a little bit, so extend your line off to the right a little bit. It takes a little practice, little common sense with the line work to make it coherent, make it simple for you to look at and say, okay, this is how I want it to be, this is how I want this to be, you know, like that. It takes a little practice. You kind of get used to it once you do it a few times, and it really does get easier. Now, this explains how you do the line work, but that's only one of the colors. Why did I choose the magenta? Well, you'll see here that we've got some shading. Alright, let me turn off the grid so you can really see it. Here's the shading. Alright, now if we zoom out, you can see, you know, the shading everywhere. Well, we need to be able to tell where the shading is. So in order to tell where the shading is, what we're going to do... Oops, come on. Usually it helps when I'm on the scroll bar. What we're going to do is, we're going to take this secondary color, magenta, for the purposes of this little tutorial here. We're going to take this magenta, and we are going to just right click, which will do this, and we're just going to outline the outer edge of the shading itself. Now, this is important because this pink line is going to show you which blocks are going to be the shading. It's not going to tell you, oh, this is the edge of the non-shaded area. No, this is the edge of the shaded area. These blocks will be part of the shading. It's not, okay, you place this block and then everything else is shading. It's very important. Or you can do it that way, I suppose. If it works for you, so be it. But it doesn't work for me. So, oops. just, I find when I do shading, it's a lot easier not to use the grid because the color differences are so narrow, they're so minute, that it's quite difficult to see it all with the grid. I personally, when I'm looking at this, I cannot tell that this right here, these 3 blocks here, or pixels here, are not the same color as these up here. I cannot tell that. However, when I take the grid off, it's quite obvious to me. I'm not sure if it's obvious to you guys on YouTube, but trust me, it's like 1 shade different. Alright, so we come up here, and here we've got the shading, which just hooks up into there. So then what you would do is, in game, mind you, all of this here would all be shaded. Alright, this would all be however you plan on doing your shading, whether it's depth shading or different block shading, what have you. All of this here will all be shaded. Just so you get the idea. Alright, all of this will be shaded, all of this will not be shaded. Up here, this stuff not shaded. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and undo that because that looks hideous and confusing. So that's how you set up your colors to do the line work and everything else. I would personally recommend not just sitting down and doing all the line work for the entire picture in one go. That is kind of painful to just sit there and do it. The way I did it when I did Yoko here is, for instance, I did the legs. I would just do the legs. Alright, I didn't even touch the tail. I just did the legs. Alright, so I pretty much did, or I just did this part of her leg. Alright, and then, whoops, whatever, the slight mess up, whatever, don't care. For the purposes of the tutorial, I don't care right now. Alright, I would do this part here, and then I would do, this as well. Whatever, it's messed up, but that's not the point. The point is that you can tell that that's what I'm doing for the line work, alright? I'm just doing this section here, alright? And then what I would do in game is I would do this section, do all this part that's done in the line work, alright? And then I would minimize the game, and then I would start on the next section, which would be, this part of her leg. So I could just then do all the line work for this, which again isn't perfect. I'm not trying to make it perfect for the purposes of the tutorial. But you are going to want to actually take your time and make sure it's correct, because this right here this is ugly, you're not going to want that. It's not going to look good in game. That's the whole purpose here, is to make it look good in the game. Alright, because after all, you're making the pixel art in the game. So why wouldn't you want it to look good in the game? So then I would, do all the line work up here, do all the line work over here, like this, all this stuff here. I would do all the line work for that. And I would make sure that I had the line work for the shorts, just this edge, just so that I have encompassed the entire thigh region. Alright, so, just so you realize, do it in parts, because that will make your job a lot easier if you split up the workload. And if you're doing it all the same thing all at once, it will get boring or stressful or what have you. If you're one of those people that prefers to do it that way, by all means, feel free, go ahead. I will let you know it took me probably 2 or 3 hours to do all the line work for this picture, though. So if you plan to sit down and do it in one sitting, plan to sit here and do this for 2 or 3 hours. Plan on taking, at the very least, an hour to do your line work. It will take you quite a bit of time. However, the 2 or 3 hours that I spent doing line work probably shaved 4 to 6 hours of frustration of fixing everything when I messed up. Alright, that alone makes it worth it. it is definitely worth it to have the line work planned out so that you can see exactly what you are doing. Now, if you look here, here one little tip that I really learned when I was doing this particular picture is when you're looking at this, it's really hard to tell the differences because all the colors do blend together, like I mentioned. They do blend together. It's really hard to tell the differences. Like, okay, this looks like shading, for instance, all right? There should actually be a line here, all right? This is actually a line that should actually, you know, be drawn out. There should be a line over here. Not exactly like that, but you get my point. That's a line. You can't tell that in here. All right, but how do you tell this stuff? Well, you go to the picture, okay, the original picture. Now this, you know what? Completely forgot to mention this at the start. Make sure you save the picture. Either keep the window of your browser open with the picture on it, or save the picture on your PC, and make sure that when you're doing this, you don't save over that original picture. Keep the original picture for reference. Always keep that picture for reference because of stuff like this with Yoko's hair. You cannot tell, for instance, down here in her hair, or you can barely tell. There's a line here. There's a line all the way down here. There's a line all the way here. There is also a line right here. That should be a line. All right? This should be a line. Just a quick little tip is definitely keep the original picture so that you can see when you look at the original picture. All right, let's zoom out of here. Turn off these grids, and you can see, for instance, this over here is a line. All right, if you zoom in, you can kind of tell it's a line, but when you turn the grid on, you're not 100% sure. You kind of think, okay, maybe it's some weird shading. Maybe it's just the line kind of got mixed up when you resized it. There's also a line right here that you can't really tell even when you do zoom out on this picture here. But when you open the original picture, which is right here, you can very plainly see there is a line here and there is a line here. You can plainly see that there's a line there and there's a line here that goes all the way down. You can see this. So keep the original picture. It will be invaluable in helping you out. I think that about covers what I really wanted to go over here. I told you how to properly crop the subject matter out of your picture, how to resize the picture to the proper dimensions, how to set up your colors for use, and even how to use them in making your grid and your line work and stuff like that. So that was all I wanted to explain in this video, as well as a couple extra little tips. And thank you very much for watching. Please continue with the tutorial. Some of the stuff that I covered here in this video may be covered redundantly in the tutorial as well in writing. Please forgive me. It's gonna happen. Not to, at the risk of sounding rude, please just deal with it. It's important stuff. Alright, so with that, I am gonna go ahead and call this video done, and thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in creating your pixel art. Once more, I want to stress this because it is very, very important. Make sure if you are saving this work in progress thing with your shading and your line work and everything, do not save over the original picture. Do not do it. It will mess you up in the long run. You will regret it. Alright? Don't do it. Alright. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.